Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Global Adventure Show with travel writer Debbie Stone. Welcome, everybody. Today we are going to find out about one of the least visited national parks in the National Park Service. We are going to Michigan's Isle Royale National Park, where the fire monkey went there. Travel writer Debbie Stone, about a month ago even? She basically just got back, and it sounds like it's one of those epic bucket list adventures that was well worth getting there, because why it's the least visited park, one of them, is because it's about getting there. But I think she's done well. I mean, she went to Samoa recently. So you're getting to all those parks that are like far away and hard to get to. So welcome back. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing good. I'm back with just a lot of memories and a few mosquito bites. So yeah, it was a grand experience. It was, as you said, one of the least visited, and so when making our way through the National Park Service system, in terms of the 63 of them, typically you leave some of the most remote ones towards the end that are harder to reach and take a lot more effort or time or expense or whatever. And this is one of them, and it is one of the least visited here in the service in the system of the national parks. And they only say about 20 to maybe even 30,000 visitors annually. But you compare that with like the Smokies, the national park there, and that gets over 12 million visitors a year. So it's a drop in the bucket. But the reason for that is its remote location. It's a very rugged landscape. It's on the northwest part of the Lake Superior in Michigan. There's a lot of wilderness, about 130,000 acres. It's basically one large island and surrounded by all these hundreds of smaller, little tiny islands. And, the area that it encompasses includes land that's submerged. It goes out into the lake. And, Lake Superior, for people who know, is one of the Great Lakes, but it is the largest freshwater lake in the world, actually. So it really has that distinction, and you really feel like you are, when you're in it, or even you're looking at it, whether you're above it, whatever it is, it really feels like this mini ocean, a freshwater ocean, because it goes on and on and on and on, and you can't believe that it is a lake. And it is, and it's extremely picturesque. But as you mentioned, it takes a little effort to get there, So that's part of the issue. But it is also why it is so pristine too.
So, getting there, you had to go on a seaplane. Am I right about that? Like you had some traveling to do, you getting there, but you went on a seaplane to get there? I mean,
yeah,
this is pretty
only 2 ways
fun.
There's only 2 ways to get there. There is the ferry, which goes from 2 places in Minnesota, Grand Portage or Grand Marais, and the other is going from the Upper Peninsula UP in Michigan, from Houghton or Copper Harbor. And the ferry runs from May through September, and you can have, from wherever you are, you could be a couple hours or up to 6, almost 7-hour journey on the ferry. We wanted to make the most of our stay, and we figured that the seaplane would be the best option for us, because we took it from Grand Marais in Minnesota, and it only took about 45 minutes. Plus, the seaplane is just a cool way to travel. It's just, you're leaving from the water, you're landing on the water, and then you get to see the scenery, because they fly, but they're not way up there. You get to see the landscape, and you get to see the water and the greenery, and you get to see the islands, and it's pretty cool. And you just feel like it gets you there really quickly, and you're there.
That's cool, man. That is cool. Just thinking about you going to Samoa, which is a little bit more tropical, right, in a way. So
yeah.
How remote on remoteness, which one do you think was more remote in regards to supplies, getting around, doing things?
American Samoa is not easy to get to. Samoa, the country, is 6-hour flight from Hawaii, and then from Samoa you're going back about 25 minutes over the international date line to get to American Samoa. But American Samoa has services. It's a territory of the United States, and it has facilities and everything. And people live there year round, et cetera, et cetera. You're talking about basically a national park that is open, basically late, mid-April, maybe until the end of October. And, people don't live there year round. There are no permanent really residents on Isle Royale. There are, no road system. There's, it's wilderness. And, there's only one full service lodge on the island, and a bunch of camping places, campgrounds. But so you are dependent on the boats coming with supplies, and if they don't come, or if something happens and they get stuck or whatever, for whatever reason, those supplies don't come. So you have to make do with what you have. And so people who go there understand that there's limited resources. And yes, you can have the creature comforts that are nice to have, a shower, a bath, whatever it is, and some food, and you have those creature comforts, but it's not like, you're going to have, it's not like going to the Four Seasons, put it this way.
Okay, right. I got it. No, this is interesting to me though. I mean, what you experienced, and even getting there. But now, did you take snacks with you? I mean, because you're limited on how much you can carry with you, even, right? Getting in there.
Right, you're limited on the weight on a seaplane, and although when that little airport in Grand Marais, it's just the tiniest little airport, easiest thing. You don't do security. They didn't check our IDs. They didn't weigh our baggages either. And but there's limited space on that tiny little seaplane. There was only 4 passengers basically, and so that and the pilot. But you can take snacks with you. That's not a problem. There's a nice small little camping store that has a little bit of grocery supplies and some clothing and things like that. But if you want to, you bring whatever it is. If you were coming to backpack, of course, you would want to have your supplies with you. And a lot of the backpackers came by ferry because obviously you can bring what you want on the ferry.
Okay, that makes sense, So this is cool. So just don't take a whole, and that's easier because even hiking and stuff like that, you don't want a bunch of stuff,
No, you travel light. I mean, that's basically what you want to do. You travel light, and
it is the law.
People should know that when they arrive at Isle Royale, and they arrive at either one of the visitor centers there on either one side of the island or the other. It's either Rock Harbor or Windingo, but Rock Harbor is where the main full-service lodge is. And at the visitor center, as soon as you get off the seaplane or get off of the ferry, you need to go in and take care of your park admission fee. So that's something,
Okay.
This is a national park, and they do check for that. And I want to put a
Sure.
plug in for the America the Beautiful annual pass, because I think it's an amazingly
Yeah.
wonderful deal, especially if you want to go to even if you went to just a few parks, it would pay for itself.
Yeah. And the seniors one is really cool. And they have one now, a pass for veterans in the military,
Yes.
active military now that I think it's free if you show your ID. So that's kind of a cool thing. And then there's a fourth graders program, which I love, for families. And if you have a fourth grader, you apply for it. And for a year, you get to go in for free with your family, which isn't that cool?
It's so cool, and it's wonderful because, you get a pass holder, and the pass holder can take several people with him or her,
Mm-hmm.
at no extra charge,
Yeah.
whether it's a car full of people or whether it's per person. But I just think it's
a great deal.
It's a sweet deal. It really is, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, when you went to the lodge, so I'm assuming you better get your reservations and everything done before you go. You don't want to land there and go, okay, I don't have like a campground. I don't have lodging because I forgot to do it.
Absolutely. This is one of the places that you have to plan ahead of time. We planned probably, I'm trying to think, maybe I want to say 7 months in advance. People plan up to a year ahead, especially if they want the reservations at the lodge or even their camping reservations. We were able to get, at that time, we were able to get, a 3-night stay. We ran into people who were only able to get a 1-night stand, and they were hoping that there would be a cancellation, they'd able to get another night. But, it's a long way to go for a 1-night stay. And you also don't get, a chance to really explore more of the park on that just short-term situation. But yeah, I urge people, if they're even interested, think about it a year in advance and start reaching out to the lodge, online, checking out whether there are rooms available. If you're going to do the seaplane, the same thing, because it's very limited as to how many people and how many times a day that plane goes there. Ferry reservations are also in high demand as well, and especially if you're coming from outside of the Midwest. We met people that were coming from Michigan and Minnesota. For them, it's less of an ordeal. But coming from outside of the Midwest, you're involved in taking a plane to get to where you're going to get to in the Midwest, and then getting from there to where you're going to go to the ferry or the seaplane airport. So it just takes planning. And if it works out, it's wonderful. There's also issues where weather could create problems for the ferry, weather could create problems for the seaplane. So, you kind of cross your fingers and hope that everything is going to work out okay.
So that's what I was going to say too. You got there. Now let's tell us why it's so worth going. I mean, you saw a moose. I love my moose. That's my thing. I love bald eagles. I mean, so the nature.
Oh gosh, yes. What I think I started my story by saying that it's just so rare to be on a popular trail in a national park and be alone. And this national park, we were on trails and maybe at the most we might have seen 2 or 3 other people on the trails. And it's just you have it to yourself. It's wonderful. And you like you said, the nature, the wildlife, and just the views of the lake and, some of the rock formations and just the forests and the woods. And it's a very special and unique environment. It's an international biosphere reserve, so which is really, really cool too. But I think for people to understand, there's a lot of hiking, and there's hiking trails that lead off right from Rock Harbor. But then if you want to go other places, you have to take a boat to get there. So you can rent a boat, you can rent a motorboat, you can rent kayaks, and you can paddle to these different islands. There is, you can also share a private boat with other hikers and like a transport boat. There's also a boat that the Rock Harbor has. It's called the Sandy, and they do special tours that you can sign up for that take you to the islands with a guide who will take you on hikes and talk to you about a national park guide that will take you around the islands. When we were there, the Sandy had not arrived yet for the season. We were there at the beginning of the season. There were some issues with it being inspected, and so it was delayed. So we had to decide to reserve a spot on a private boat going out with several other hikers and being dropped off at different islands. But getting outside of Rock Harbor is great because you get to really see the parts of the national park that you wouldn't by just staying on Rock Harbor. So there are plenty of other trails on these other islands, and some of the islands have some really cool attractions.
Cool, man. This is sounding good. This is sounding good. Of course it is going to be good, right? I'm like, I know, I can't, I mean, how can it not be? So, this is this iconic place, so I'm like, how could it not be anything but iconic,
It is very iconic and very unique in many different ways. And, I think one of the places that was a real highlight for us was going to this other island where there is a historic fishery, a fish camp there. There's also the Rock Harbor Lighthouse with these wonderful exhibits inside. And then the coolest thing is the Bangson Cabin, which was a fishery that was operated there by a family in the 40s and 50s. And then the National Park Service granted permission to researchers to use the cabin for some field operations on a wolf moose study. And that has been continuing
Mm.
for umpteen years now. And the couple that has been there for like 50 plus years in the summer are the Petersons, Rolf and Candy. And, Rolf is a very esteemed authority on wolves and
Hmm.
moose. And they've been there conducting this study, and they coordinate teams of volunteers that spend a week and hike the island in search of moose skulls.
Oh, wait a
And
minute. I think I've seen them on like
have
a
you? Because they're very,
National
I mean, they're well
Geographic kind of thing, or
known.
yeah, I've seen it,
Yes,
and I think they had all the antlers and all of these, like
yes,
yeah, like it
yep.
was like it's like a Hall of Fame of moose. Yeah.
It's called like the Boneyard, and it's like there's over 5,000 moose skulls that have been recovered that are there, and so they're studying the moose and the wolf, which is the apex predator there on the Isle Royale. And first the moose came. Oh, they came and they swam over from the mainland, but then the wolves eventually came and on this ice bridge in the winter, and they joined them. And so as I mentioned, the lives and deaths of these species are isolated and intertwined, making it a very good place to study that predator-prey interaction. So you can go there. They welcome visitors, and they will talk to you about everything, about the study, about all the bones. I found it fascinating because they had the bones. They had these like little signs outside, and it was like, one said, which I found was interesting, when they get old, moose exhibit arthritis, periodontal disease, osteoporosis, and then it says sound familiar. And it's like, yeah, that's what happens when we all get old, you know?
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So that's a lot, and you got to go in there. Was that
Yes,
just
and she
luck
invited
or
us
being,
in.
wow.
No,
Did you
she
feel,
invites people in. People go into her cabin. You get to see where she and Ralph live, and they, over the past 50 plus years, they've raised their two sons there, and they're amazing people, and so knowledgeable and so interesting, and it was wonderful. And one of the teams that had been gone for a week was coming back when we were there, and we got to see them come back with the moose skulls, bones that they had found. They had been camping on the island for a week, and so they came back, and it was interesting to see what they brought back with them. So yeah, it was fascinating. It was a great highlight. I never expected anything like that, to encounter anything like that. So it was a very cool experience.
man, how cool. That is awesome I mean, this is definitely a different park, no matter how you look at it, you know, just being able to, have that experience of being part of the conservation, work that they do in the
Yes.
parks and documenting, so that's really cool. Now tell us about, getting out there and hiking. Did you see wildlife?
Yeah, there was moose, and we saw actually right around the lodge in the woods. We saw a moose heading behind a structure, and I mean they're and then we saw one they were swimming. One of them was swimming in the water. I mean,
Oh,
seeing a moose in the water is pretty cool. It was just cool, and the other thing we saw was this incredibly ginormous sandhill crane as we were hiking out to Scoville Point, one of these beautiful, picturesque locations. We passed this like area of we could see through the woods. There was like this meadow, and there was this huge bird sitting there, and I think the bird was nesting. And we found out from somebody that it was a sandhill crane, but I had never seen one the size of that. We
hmm.
also saw an eagle's nest fairly up close, because the way that the trail was, that it was like an uphill area, and you were on the top of this hill, and all of a sudden you looked across and you could see this eagle's nest right there, and there were two little eaglets with their heads sticking out, and then one of the parents came and dropped off food. It was just fabulous. So, we sat there, and there was like one or two other people there with us, and we were all very excited to watch this up so close, because usually with eagles' nests, they're so far away, and you need binoculars.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
typically can't see that. So it was a very cool experience. But yeah, there's plenty of wildlife, and there were a lot of people who said they saw them, lots of moose out on the trail, and and also there are signs that say They do have wolves there. Wolves are, typically not interested in approaching humans, but there's big signs saying "Don't feed the wolves," and I'm thinking, it was like I've never seen a sign like that in a national park saying "Don't feed the wolves" in particular. You know what I mean? So that was
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
pretty interesting because I thought to myself, who's going to feed the wolves, and what do the wolves have a penchant for? Granola bars or something? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, they're gonna take my snacks that I like, my ultimate snacks that, because you don't want to let go of your snacks. It's like, no, don't take my snacks. They're mine. No, no. But that is, well, they have to. I mean, because, well, we all know that people are getting stupid in parks lately. It's been,
Yes.
well, it's not just lately. It's this insane amount of people thinking they can go and, you know, I'm going to tame a buffalo
Yes.
kind of thing. And that's
Yeah.
insane,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
I completely would agree with you. The idea of taking selfies with wild animals is ridiculous, and the
It's,
fact that people getting up close or taking chances and risks with wild animals is just not. It's crazy. It drives me insane. These are wild animals, and this is their land. You know what I mean?
exactly. It's like what we've taken so much of their habitat that one thing we could do is be, just can't we just give something back to them? You know what I
Well,
mean?
it's just being,
I feel that way.
yes, well, just being respectful of the fact this is their land, and we are fortunate that we are able to visit and share the area, but it also means that we have to be extremely respectful of the space, their space, and knowing that we can't their behavior is not predictable. They're wild animals once again, and it's not like you're going to walk up to some wolf like a domestic dog or something. And it's just insane. I think that people sometimes just don't. I don't think they think. I just don't think they think.
No, I don't think so either. And it's, I think when you're used to doing a lot of the hiking and, I mean, we all do this. This is part of what we do all the time, but for others, maybe new, um, not so much, huh? So
Yeah,
we just kind of have to be aware. There's just it. The more you go to parks, the more you become a steward, hopefully, and
I agree.
going to places like, we saw all, the work that they were doing at the cabin. Oh, that's a different place. Now I'm off my cabins here, with your moose people. Um, Going and seeing something like that or going into a ranger program. I think this is the thing about parks. If we can go into those programs, we start to understand what we're experiencing. And if we don't go into those programs, sometimes we just go through and we don't understand how to have that respect. So I always say go to ranger programs, go to the visitor center, start to really read about what you're looking at, get that information.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
what the visitor centers are for, and that's what the rangers are for. And they are very happy to share their knowledge with you, point out trails, talk about wildlife. At Rock Harbor, there were programs in the evening. You could attend talks by the rangers, about the different wildlife or about the ecology or
Hmm.
geography of the area. And if you want to learn, that's a wonderful way to learn from people who spend a lot of time there and who have studied the area and know what it's all about. So that's what I tell people. It's like, make your first stop the visitor center, get some information, get some maps and brochures, and get your questions answered. And that's me the best way, the
Yeah.
best introduction to a park.
And find out about the hike so that you don't go take one that you can't do. You know what I mean? You can sometimes you think,
True.
oh, I can do that. And then, one of the easiest hikes I think was in, Mount Rainier. Nancy, that was at the beginning of our tour. And we were in, oh, Longmire, the Longmire part of the
Yeah.
park.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's that river coming through and everything.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And there's that wooden bridge that you cross over this.
Yep.
I mean, the river going, I mean, this is, you know, I'd come out of the Southwest. Like if there's a trickle of water, you're like praying to the rain gods and saying, thank you for a trickle, you know, but holy cow, this is like a darn ocean coming down with big rocks and boulders. I'm like, I got up there because I'm really woozy about heights and stuff, And I go up
Right.
there and I like my knees start going in. I start like, And if I take another step, I may even, pee in my pants. I'm getting so scared. Nancy did it. She was like, come on, she goes up and then,
Right.
but I see her doing it. I can tell, dude, this is scary because you could just sneeze and fall off and off you go and you're going to get seriously hurt, so
Right.
it's,
Sure.
so I would have thought, oh, that's an easy hike. No, not for me,
I think,
but
yeah,
it was
that,
beautiful though.
easy is one of those very subjective terms. And, the National Park Service does rate their hikes and, will say easy and moderate and challenging or, strenuous or whatever they rate them as. But, pay attention to that. And if you have questions, say, what is the terrain like? As
Hmm.
it's, if somebody, I was saying, oh, I'm not that much of a hiker, or I haven't hiked very much. What is the terrain like? I'm not really good on loose gravel or scree or whatever it is. Or I'm not great with heights. Let me know what would be
Yeah.
a good choice here, and they will let you know. And I think I was standing next to some gentleman, and he was saying, I have recovered from some knee surgery and blah blah blah, and I can do this, but I really have to do something slowly, and I have and so that the rangers will tell them, then this hike would be good for you. This other hike would not be, would be something that would be much more challenging, and you might not really
Mm.
want to do that. I mean, it's nice to have a challenging hike if you're up for the challenge. That's wonderful, but if you're just not used to it, or if you've got any kind of physical issues that are concerning to you, then find a hike that there's always a hike that you can do. There's always
There
something
is.
you can do.
Yep. Even if you're in a wheelchair, there's always some kind of accessibility trail. And
Yep.
you know what I think is so amazing about where you went because it's only open part of the year because I mean, you're up there and they have like snow, like big real stuff, right? But
Oh
it,
well, they
it,
everything's closed, for months at
yeah,
a time. You can't get in there, So
yeah.
it's
But I mean, isn't
that's
it
why it's
amazing when you're
yeah
there and you realize that this was just a few months ago iced
yeah
over. Like, isn't
yeah
that kind of
yeah
crazy? Well, I always go like, wow, last at the beginning of the year, Nancy and I went through all the crazy Oregon ice storms and snow storms and all of
yes
that, right? Which we're done
yeah
with now. And,
yep
we know all these people that have, and they've been using your articles, by the way, going, to the Columbia Gorge River and the waterfalls and
yes
everything. I'm like, here, go where Debbie went. And their photos are coming back, and I'm like, yeah, well, we went through the ice so that you could have a good time. Like, but it's amazing to see that within a few months, how it
yes
changes that
things
quickly
change
into,
things
but
change.
it's so green where you were. It
Yes,
seems
it is.
tranquil too, even though there were
It's in.
shipwrecks out there, you know?
Oh yeah, I mean it can be Lake Superior is definitely a
It's like an
scene of
ocean.
many shipwrecks. So and when you went to that lighthouse, they had a whole section on shipwrecks, which I always find very fascinating, and I always like to read and see what the kinds of things that they've recovered from the water, and it's just to me it's fascinating. But yeah, it's the lake can be very unstable. The weather can be very unstable, and so yeah, it's a very finite time that you can visit this park, which makes it even more special. And
Hmm.
even when you go in season, you have to be prepared for weather that can occur. And we were told, and everybody mentions online, that you should make sure you've got your layers, and you've got your rain pants
Mm.
and your rain jacket, and you've got good sturdy waterproof shoes and all that kind of good stuff. And especially in the Midwest, as we know, with the bugs, but we were also forewarned about that. Wearing long pants, long shirts, long socks, as I said, sturdy shoes, and then having bug repellent or bug spray, and having mosquito netting for your face. It's amazing. I mean, I said very tongue in cheek, but it is kind of the fashion statement at Isle Royale. It's like you saw people walking around with it, and it's like you think to yourself, really, do I really need that? And then you're out there and you're
Yes.
like, yeah, I really do.
Yeah, I don't like to mess with it. I mean, we were up in Minnesota and we stopped for a picnic in a park, a Riverside Nature Center somewhere. I mean, it was spectacular because it's like it's different because it still has the prairie landscape as well with the flowers and everything. And we sat
Right.
down, and I mean, it was in a minute, and I was like, dude, what the heck, you know? And they were telling us they were going through a drought, and Nancy and I are looking at this going, what drought? I mean, it's so green, you know, we're desert
Yeah.
people. This is
Yeah.
oasis. This is a paradise, you know? So Voyagers, I mean, not Voyagers, Island Royale to me, I don't know. It's an island park, which makes it really unique. And, you know, cause you did the Channel Islands too. So when you kind
Yeah.
of look
I
at
mean,
that, there's specific species endemic to that area. So for that
absolutely. And
island.
this is, and you know, the fact that it is, you know, isolated and remote, you know, you know, the species population, they don't have that many animals compared to other, you know, parks because, you know, how are those animals going to get there? You know,
Mm,
so it's a very finite group of animals. They have a lot, you know, they have birds and they have insects and amphibians and all those kind of things. But in terms of actual animals, it's a limited number of species that are there, you know. So
mm,
which makes it very, I think it makes it very ideal for scientists and researchers who really wanted to study those species because they're studying them in this very kind of almost enclosed arena, so to speak, you know.
yeah. It's different. It's different to have that kind of experience, you know? Are there snakes? I mean, I think everywhere
Yeah,
has snakes.
there
Yeah.
are. I never saw any, but there are. Yeah, there are, and I'm sure there's water snakes as well. I mean, that's the lake, and there's probably lots of that, and there's lots of fish. I mean, you know, there were people that go, you know, specifically to go fishing as well. You know, and you can,
Oh,
you know, get
okay.
a fishing boat, and you can get your own motorboat and go out and fish, and you know, that's definitely a big attraction there. I would say, you know, hiking and fishing are probably the biggest, you know, attractions. And people, you know, many people go and camp and backpack, and that's extremely popular.
Mm,
It's like I said, because there is only one full service lodge there, and that's a very finite number of rooms as well. So, you know, your alternatives are camping.
mm. I know camping is fun. I don't know how my body feels about it these days, but camping is good. Camping is good. You're gonna have to live in like you know, mosquito bodysuit to do it, maybe,
That,
but
I was
it's,
going to say, you know, I do like camping. I haven't done it for a while, but I do like it. But I'm not so sure I would be up for camping in that area
yeah,
only because of the bugs. But
yeah.
you know, a lot of people do it. They love it. They come back year after year. It's a very, it actually gets repeat people coming because they find it to be such a wonderful place because it is a wilderness.
It just looks so pristine and calm. That was the first thing I thought
Mhm.
when I saw the pictures was a
Yeah.
sense of absolute calm, you know, as we do our parks, and I know you do them around the world, and I'm finding it harder and harder to find calm in paradise. Um, just I tried to record bird sounds the other day in a refuge because I could hear them all. They were beautiful, right? Every time I went
Yeah.
to record them, a airplane, a truck, something, and I was
Yeah.
like, this is you know, now that I'm doing it more from audio too, it's a whole new world. And so I think when you have parks like this, I'm glad it's remote because I think it helps balance the ecosystem, you know, so it's not too
Yeah.
heavy in foot traffic, but also not overdone in, you know, I mean, did you have Wi-Fi and things like that, or are you pretty remote on that?
Um, the the Wi-Fi only worked in a certain area at Rock Harbor, so you know it doesn't work in your
Hmm.
room. Um, only works in certain places, and sometimes was erratic, you know, which is understandable and
Right,
expected.
right.
And it's so you know I was okay with the fact that I wasn't going to freak out if I couldn't you know get
Yeah.
Wi-Fi. It's like okay
It's kind of
for you
cool.
know 3 nights if I'm
Yeah.
unplugged that's quite all right, you know. So it's
Yeah.
like it's okay that the rest of the world can continue on. I'm fine without
Mm.
knowing everything, you know.
So it's got to be pretty quiet in regards to human noise. is I think where my point was. Like,
When you're out and about in the woods, yes, it is definitely. Or if you're on the water, it's definitely very serene and very peaceful.
mm,
So that's that's I think that is the major attraction for visitors, for people who want to go there, is because they know that they can get that peace and that serenity, and they don't have to share uh, all the trails in the park with hordes of visitors and
mm.
people trying to get photos all the time.
Yeah, God, I know. I hate that. It's like, here, bump out of the way. Excuse me, I got to get my selfie. And it's
Yeah,
like,
it
okay,
just it's
yeah.
it's so annoying. You reach to you reach an incredibly beautiful spot, whether it's a lake or waterfall, whatever it is, and you're at this national park, and then all of a sudden there's all these people, and they're all trying to jockey for position to get the best picture, and you're just kind of like, oh my gosh.
No, but actually, though, Nancy and I just like to watch the poses because that's funny. I don't know what everybody's doing with their lips, pursing their lips in like abundance. Like, it's how far can you go with it? I mean, are you trying to compete with
Yeah.
the fish? Like, honestly, it's like the
I
fish.
mean, I love photos, like the next
Sure.
person. I mean, I love taking photos, but I really enjoy taking photos when I can have the space myself,
To
and
do it. Yeah, yeah.
I don't have to worry about somebody in my picture, or even just somebody trying to block something or whatever it is. It's just nice not to
Yeah.
worry about that. It really, really is. I remember my husband and I were hiking, and we got somewhere, and it was like, oh, good, there's nobody here. And then, we sat down and we're enjoying it. And it was like 10 minutes later, all of a sudden we heard this noise, and it was like this large group of people heading from the trail to where we were. And all of a sudden they're all over the place, and we're just like, oh no. And
Mm.
it just like ruined our moment.
And yeah, I think we just have to learn to balance out how our actions in parks a little bit. I
Yes,
think it's kind of like, hi, and then sometimes someone will be hiking, you always just smile or nod or hi,
of
and
course.
some people just look at you and turn away. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'm not going to save you on the trail if you're going to be
Yeah,
like
I
that.
think normally the people I meet that are outdoor lovers are pretty friendly, and
Oh,
also
yeah.
really respectful of using the trail
Hmm.
and sharing the trail. And they're a lot of people are friendly. You can say, oh, how much further it is at this, and they'll tell you, or you'll be like,
Oh,
oh, did
yeah.
you
Is it
did you
worth
did you see
dying
that
to
bald
get
eagle
there?
nest? It's
Yeah.
just it's fun when somebody does that. It's like when we found the one or two other people on the trail out to the point, we're like, did you see that bald eagle nest? It was like, you want to share that with somebody because it's such a cool thing. So, doing that, I think, is a really nice thing to do
Hmm.
when you can find wildlife, and you want somebody else, who really would love to see wildlife too.
I agree. I agree. You make friends on the trail for sure. You really do.
Absolutely.
We've made
Absolutely.
friends all over the place just by traveling. It's just,
Oh, for sure.
hmm
That's one of the most interesting parts of travel is connecting with other people who have a love of exploring places. So definitely.
cool. Now, did you like the food being served? Before you go, I have to ask because I know.
Well,
Did you get
I
fish
think
from there, or is it just really kind of? It
yes.
seems like it's
No,
just
no,
like your
no.
your your basic food because it has to be shipped in,
It's very
literally.
yeah, it's very it's but there was actually a few options that that I seized upon. There was Great Lakes walleye, and there was like a whitefish and chips, and so they did have some options in that range. But I think the best thing for people to understand is you have to think, where am I going, and not to have very high expectations of what you're going to get in terms of when you're, in a grill or a restaurant there, whatever it is. And it's limited. And that's what you have to think about. And if they're out
Mhm.
of something because the boat didn't come in with the supplies, well, then you got to choose something else.
Yeah,
And as I said in my story, I was just happy that I didn't have to cook. So.
yeah, or lug it in. Yeah, cook over a
Yeah,
campfire and fight over it with
yes,
the mosquitoes. Exactly.
right.
No, no. But that's you're in somewhere remote. You're not there for a five-star dinner, right? That's not what
No,
the
my,
place is about. It's
no,
about the nature.
no.
So, but
And,
at least
and,
you have
and,
food and it's got
and you have
pizza.
food. And you had I had a very functional room, and it had the most gorgeous. All the rooms have gorgeous lake views. They were like drop dead,
Oh,
beautiful lake views. And you have a bathroom and a shower, and you have creature comforts, and it's fine, basic and fine.
now what about these fried cheese curds? Did you try them?
I've had cheese curds before. Having gone to school in Wisconsin, I've had fried cheese curds. Period. No, I didn't have to try them.
She's like, I'm sick of, yeah, but it's like fried cheese curd sounds about good now, and then the miner's pasty, that reminds me of, we used to get the, yeah, Cornish pasties in
Yeah,
England.
the pasties.
Yeah,
it's a British. I mean, it's a British
like an
thing.
empanada in a
So
way, right?
yes,
In a
yeah, doesn't like piece of dough with some meat
good
and veggies
filling.
or veggies inside, and it's I mean, and it was like, oh wow, that's on the menu. That was a little surprise.
Hey, why not? Hey, sounds good
Yeah.
to me. Well, they've got a lot of European history,
Yes,
up
a
there,
lot of
so
and a
it
lot
kind
of
of,
British history. So there's
huh.
a lot of that. So yeah, definitely that
Oh,
makes
it's because of the
sense.
the War of 1812. That's going
Yes,
to be part of
yes,
that, right? Yeah, yeah, because you're right
yeah,
up
and just
there. Whew.
I mean, think about it. You know some of the Canadians coming, the fur trade, the whole thing up there. So there
Wow.
was a lot of intermingling, so to speak.
And they did not have mosquito repellent back then. I'm just going to say, like, I always think about like the Battle of 1812, War of 1812, and
Oh
things like that, like
gosh,
Battle of New Orleans. I connect them together
yeah.
because they are kind of connected. But like you go out in these swamps and stuff, like they were fighting in New Orleans in swamps and stuff. And here comes they went
Oh,
after the British, right? And they did such a good job. Um,
oh.
but I'm going like, how did they do that? How did they do that in those times? What was it like being Lewis and Clark with a bunch
Oh,
of mosquitoes? Like seriously, like I would dig a hole and bury myself in it,
I just
or
can't. You
something.
can't even. I can't even imagine it.
Yeah.
It's
But
like
when you go to
you
these
just.
parks,
Oh,
you get
oh,
that feeling of what people went through, you know?
it,
Um,
you get just a
yeah,
tiny taste of it before you run inside. It's like.
that's funny. Well, the visitor centers are good for that, So did
Yeah.
they show, there was obviously all the shipwreck history and things like that, but what about Native American history? Did you see any of that while you were there?
Yeah, they had exhibits in about that, and not as much there as opposed to Voyager National Park, which had
Mm.
some that dealt with that as well. But yeah, that's definitely noted. But I think they really focused a lot on. Well, it's more on maybe the geology, ecology, wildlife.
Hmm.
More on
Okay.
that. But yes, of course they definitely noted that.
Mm.
I find that most national parks now do give time or space towards that.
That's awesome. They're getting better and better, man, on what they do for African American history, women's history, Hispanic. I mean, they're really the cultural roots they're really working on that. Before you go, where's next? Because it sounds like we're going to have some epic podcasts coming up.
Yeah, well, I will be rafting in Utah, and I will be in Alaska to do 5 national parks. Some of them even more remote than Isle
Wow.
Royale. So it will be quite an adventure, and I hope that it all works out smoothly, and that I get to experience these places, and definitely will be taking a lot of repellent with me.
That's it. Exactly. Here's my carry-on bag. All it is
Yeah.
repellent. Okay.
Yes.
That's it.
And
That's
netting
it.
and netting. That's it.
Face
Netting.
netting. The netting thing is a good idea. We need that when we do Arkansas. Yeah, for sure. Well,
Oh
thanks
yes.
so much. Always
Of
fun
course.
hearing about your adventures. And I know this is going to inspire people to get planning so that they can go have an amazing time in a very unique and remote park in our National Park Service. So take care, Fire Monkey. Have fun on your next adventure and travel
Well,
safe.
thanks so much. I'm looking forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Big Blend Radio's Global Adventures Show with travel writer Debbie Stone. Debbie is here every fourth Tuesday. You can keep up with us at bigblendradio.com.